Okay, hello everyone. Hello, hello, hello. And hello to our Ancona friends. We are just excited to have you all here today. So I'm Dr. Alicia Gabriel. I am the Vice President of Operations for Ancona in the Americas. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Ancona, Ancona is a globally operating company for training and consulting services for both the automotive and aerospace industries, but also other companies as well. And we have been getting a lot of questions about how we really effectively implement certain requirements in almost all of the management standards as well as customer specific requirements. And so what we've done is we've analyzed these frequently asked questions that we receive every day. And one of the top topics that came up is process ownership, right? And so we decided to conduct this webinar. And we're very excited to join this and have this today because another reason why I'm so excited is that we couldn't get anyone else, right, other than the founder and chairman of the board of Ancona Global, Mr. Hans Trunkenpol. So hello, Hans.
Hello, Alicia, and hello to everybody out there. Yeah, thank you for the invite. It's a great pleasure to be on board, and I hope I can contribute and provide some clarification with regards to today's topic. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I definitely have no doubts that you'll be able to assist our attendees today. So we're really excited. Well, Hans, let's go ahead and get started. As you know, ITTF 16949, they implemented or introduced rather a number of new requirements in the 2016 version, right? And one of them is effective implementation of process owners, and it's a top management responsibility. So you as an ITTF third-party certification auditor, you get to see countless numbers of companies around the world. And I'm sure you've seen and observed the ways in which process ownership is implemented. So one of the first things that we should definitely talk about is your experience. Can you share with the audience as to what the current situation is out there regarding this topic?
Yeah, sure, Alicia. I think this topic goes a little bit further than just the process ownership. I believe it's one of the core reasons as to why management systems do not provide the support that they potentially could provide. Mm-hmm. And that is, and for that, I'm not surprised that this process ownership popped up in your FAQ stats. I can totally relate to that. The basic problem in general with management systems is ITTF speaks about that the implementation of a quality management system, according to ITTF, should be based on a strategic decision of the management. Right. But what if that decision has been made for the organization already? And that's where I'm coming from. The decision to implement an ITTF management system has been made by the customer, because the customer says, guys, listen, this is your entry card. If you want to supply your parts or sub-modules or modules into the supply chain to whatever level, you shall comply to ITTF requirements. The decision has been made. So it's not based on a strategic management decision from shareholders, from the top dogs, from managers, however you want to call them. Because, and why is this relevant? Because if managers make a strategic decision for the business plan, for the business cases, whatever the case may be, in order to make that decision, they start to investigate. They make feasibility studies. They technically sink their teeth into that topic in order to understand, does that business case make sense for us? But what if all that has not been done? And that's the general problem where we stand. And so the decision has been made and not based on a strategic decision from management is a problem. with regards to process ownership. So basically what happened, of course, and you said it, when in 2016, a variety of new requirements came into the standard, like the process ownership. Of course, all the quality managers and the quality management representatives read about it. But here's the thing, ITF does not tell you how you have to do things. It only tells you what you have to do, and you have to do your right interpretation for your organization in order to come with a practical solution. And unfortunately, and this is what we can see all around the world, that process ownership has been misinterpreted all the way through, and in most of the cases. So ITF now says, but the top management is responsible to assign these process owners. Firstly. Secondly, top management must make sure that they are competent to fill the post. And thirdly, top management must make sure that the process owner understands the duties of their post. So, but what if the dogs of the world don't understand the content of the process ownership themselves? So how are you going to assign an effective process owner?
Right.
Now, again, left up to the quality managers, and then it just went its way. So the misinterpretation is one problem or one situation point that needs to be reported. And the assignment of those process owners failed. It failed. Consequently, in not doing the right thing, and this is what I like to say, in today's world, it's not enough to do the right things. We also have to do the things right.
Right.
So basically, and consequently, what top management did is they assigned the existing department managers and gave him that add-on role as a process owner. So basically, the department manager now becomes also a process owner. And here's the thing, ITF talks about leadership, talks about top management, talks about management, and talks about process owners. So if the managers and the process owners all alike, why would we use different technologies? So there's got to be there's got to be more to that. And we will speak about that later, but you were asking me what the current situation is out there. So the quality managers, second problem is that in most of the companies, we still have quality management system representatives.
Right.
Individuals, often quality managers, QMRs, that are still assigned responsible for the management system, which is completely contradictory to the process ownership. And this is what I like to tell people. The biggest change of implementing effective process ownership, the biggest change starts with the top dogs. Mm-hmm. Because they need to understand and sink their teeth into this whole thing to support. And the second biggest change is for the QMRs and the quality managers, because they still act like the saviors of the world. The customer audit, comes an internal audit, comes a third-party audit. They are the savior of the organization. Yeah. There's still, in my mind, way too much spoon-feeding and babysitting the organization, which doesn't help a process owner to find his place in this whole situation. So that is something. And then, of course, we have to map the processes. And going the easy way, what you can see all over the show is, let's map the processes in a turtle diagram. Right. And I think in today's world, not that easy anymore. The process is complex. And it's not enough just to have 35 turtle diagrams running around in your organization and seriously believing that you can manage the complexity of a process. Mm-hmm. Now we're sitting there with the misinterpretation of the requirements of what process owners should do, because ITF actually what it really wants is they want to have empowered people on a wider range than just on a management level.
Right.
Okay, to manage the complexity. That's basically where it's coming from. So a manager is not necessarily a process owner. He can be, but not necessarily. So why do we not empower more people to run processes and manage the complexity. That's basically the understanding of ITF, where we failed in most of the cases with this interpretation.
Yeah.
So consequently, and the third problem or situation that we see is the way we organize the companies. You can still in most of the organizations, you still see an organization chart.
Yes, absolutely.
Organization chart is basically a 170-year-old way of documenting a structure.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in 2021. So there's got to be, and I'm not particularly against an organization chart. It serves its purpose in various different things. The problem I'm having with these organization charts is you start organizing and running your organization like an army.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the top general on top, and you have your first level managers, call them platoon leaders, and then you have your soldiers, all within organized in a reporting line.
Right.
Here's the deal. ITF is not interested in organization charts. It is in a way to serve a different purpose. But ITF speaks in processes.
Right.
And why is this relevant? Why is this relevant? The organization chart promotes a departmental thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking in departments.
Yeah.
Process sneaks to each and every department. Just for argument's sake, if you launch a new product, so nearly every faculty in the organization has to come to the party. So this process is sneaking through each and every department. And at the end of the line, there's a customer waiting, may it be an internal one or an external one, that is waiting for a process result. But in that departmental thinking that we are in most of the cases still,
Yeah.
I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Promotes that silo development, silo.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried to, it's quite an interesting story. I made a presentation in front of top management of a big OEM.
Mm-hmm.
We were speaking exactly that, and I was presenting a couple of slides I want to share with you as well, just to visualize, to illustrate what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to them, that guys, have you ever thought about what is the definition of a department? And I said to them, but whether you have or not, I've done it for you already. This is the result. And just have a look at that. So you understand where I'm coming from. That is a major territorial administrative subdivision. So not only that we run our departments as a territory, we also subdividing ourselves from the rest of the organization,
Right.
which is contradictory to a process approach.
Absolutely.
Later. And I said to them, I said, folks, now that you have those two keywords, territory and subdivision, and I asked them again, I said, folks, have you ever dropped a thought on what is the definition of a territory? It's basically coming from the animal kingdom, from the animal world.
Right.
And I was gently provocative, I must admit. I believe this is why Terence said the straight talking Hans Struckenpost. What is the definition of a territory? And I said to them, I said, I've done that for you as well. And this is what came, is that that's an area that an animal defends against intruders, especially from the same species. And I said to the folks, as a gentleman, do yourself a favor and just replace that word animal by human. That's exactly where we are in our organizations today.
Yeah.
So you have that departmental thinking. They're run like a territory. You have your kingdoms and queendoms, and they protect that territory against intruders, which is contradictory to your process flow. Because at the end of the day, as I said earlier, there's a customer waiting for a process output, and he has no time. He has zero time for all your cats and dog fights that you might have between protecting your territory.
Absolutely.
So, so why is this relevant? And this is where ITF comes into the game and say, guys, stop with that. Stop that. Think in processes. And in 5.1, that clause where the process ownership comes into the effect,
right.
Must be linked with clause 4.4, which is where we are identifying processes.
Right. Right.
And that's basically what it is. So we are in territories, and you can see you have your process ownership of a manufacturing process owner. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
And he would say, yes, my OEE would be fine, but HR hasn't provided the missing resources I requested some month ago. But if they would do their job, my OEE would be awesome. And my OEE would be amazing, but maintenance is failing to provide machine uptime. So if they would do the job, my OEE would look, you understand where I'm coming from?
Right. Absolutely.
So we're starting to play ping pong, as we like to call it. And judging and blaming and protecting and my area, my territory is clean, and all that is contradictory to a process flow because we have too much losses on the interface in terms of communication, in terms of process efficiency. At the end of the day, the customer, intern or extern, has no time for that. All he wants is on-time delivered quality product or service.
Yes.
That's bottom line what it is.
Yeah.
So, and it's like in this department, it's like in a lion pride. Okay. So that, and it's the same with humans. There can only be one. Highlander principle. So this strong lion, male lion, is the king of his pride.
Right.
And he gets all the ladies for himself, and he makes babies, and the babies are also some males, and the male wants to grow, the youngster. It's just like in humans. The ones of you that have lighties out there and kids, as they grow, they're starting to challenge, you know. The human world is a little more disciplined with lots of questions and questions. Those juvenile lions, they start to get funny and starting to challenge the old man. So it comes to a fight. Yeah. And there's a winner and there's a loser. The loser must go. There's only one. Humans are the same. And that departmental thinking that we promote with these organizational structures is basically what is not supporting the process approach. So those are the three situations that we find out there. So consequently, the effective process ownerships is unclear to the organizations. Okay, that's why we have to talk about what does ITF really believe are the duties and responsibilities of a process owner, and it will become very clear. That a process owner is actually an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. He runs his own process in an organization that he doesn't own, but he owns a process in that business. So we need a lot of managerial skills and behavings for a process owners. And make no mistake, find them nearly in every organization. They're somewhere hidden back in the corners, okay, supporting the managers. So they are available. The organization must just find them and promote them and help them understand what is this whole process management about.
Right.
And I think this is maybe a good thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to finalize. So the question in the organization is: are we running our departments like human beings with open door policy in those, or are we running it, or are we acting like lions? And that's bottom line what it is. And in too many cases, we unfortunately see that territorial behavior of protecting my boundaries, my territory, from intruders of the same species is present everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's no difference between US, Asia. wherever we go, it's the same. And that is an issue as to why we have that situation. And just here to illustrate here, just a couple of silos. You have your different departments.
Sure.
And unfortunately for all the kings and queens and protectors of their territories, this is how a process runs. And with information flow, with communication, so everybody come to the party. And now, of course, with that departmental thinking and that protective behavior, you have a lot of losses on the interfaces. Mm-hmm. That's why projects run late, or one of the reasons why projects run late and processes become inefficient. So that being said, these are, and that is a problem, friends. And I must give everybody that, every quality manager, every representative that takes care of the quality management system. I want to give you all that. ITF is not very precise in describing those roles and responsibilities. Exactly. In the book, at least not in clause 5.1 where it's stipulated. So you have to cross-read with 4.4. You find a little bit, but it's still incomplete. But here's a summary as we get from ITF, as when we do our trainings and examinations as third-party auditors. This is a comprehensive list that shows you what the roles and responsibilities are of a process owner. And that being said, it becomes quite obvious that this is not just a job.
Right.
We need entrepreneurs for that, to drive a process. And here's the thing, that's another misperception of the organizations. There's another misperception. Is that we have so many procedures in our company.
Yeah.
Okay. So where we describe a process, the process flow. Mm-hmm. Let's understand, as per ITF regulations, a procedure is not a process.
Yes.
It's a document that supports a process, but it's not equal.
That is correct, yes.
So you cannot just say, now I'm going to write a procedure to see how the thing goes, and now I've identified my process. It's not like that. No. So 4.4 is very precise in that, where it says the organization shall identify all processes needed to basically run and drive a successful business. Mm-hmm. That's what it talks about. What you identify as a process is to the discretion of the company. In some areas, you said, I don't want to identify the process. A procedure might be sufficient for me. So it be. That's a strategic decision of the organization. But once you identify the process, then you have to go all in. Then you have to play Champions League with all these requirements as they're stipulated on this slide here. Mm-hmm. And this is also what we find out there. People tell me, said, well, okay, we have HR is identified as a process.
Okay.
But is HR a process, or is that a name of a department?
Right.
And that's why a modern ITF auditor goes into HR, understanding the difference between the process approach and the departmental thinking. And he has an interview with the manager of HR and I said, listen, I understand we are now in the department of HR, but allow me to ask you, what kind of processes have you identified within your department that you call HR? Because now we're talking process. Before, it's just a department name. And she would say, no, we have a recruitment process. We have a training and development process. Maybe we take care of payrolling as a process. And we identified those. So it be. Mm-hmm. HR is not necessarily a process.
No.
Okay. So same with logistics. Same with finance. What is finance? Finance is not a process. Finance is the name of a department. But you can have financial related processes identified, like creditors, financial reporting, and all that. So those are financial management related processes. And this is where we struggle out there to identify what is a process and what is a department. And often you see a mix, I must say.
Yeah.
It's very advisable to really go and sink your teeth into this from the management standpoint of view and understand the difference of what is the departmental thinking, what's the process approach, and what is the process. Okay,
Yeah.
comes of this ownership here, and there's a couple of things, and this is why it fails to identify every department manager as a process owner. The way I look at it is not because those managers are not good or competent.
Right.
I'm not saying that. It's just the complexity under these regulations to manage a process. It's just not doable for a person. That's why the empowerment. Those process owners, they can still report to a department head, no problem. But let them manage, empower more people in the organization. Let them sink their teeth into various. And if you go through this list, there's a couple of things that are so crucial to make it happen, which is not done, which is simply not done. Because in this process, for argument's sake, processes, we are in a KPI-driven world.
Oh, yeah.
Green dashboard. But the green dashboard only represents the output of the process, which is related to the targets. I understand that. But what if the amount of resources you feed into your process is so high and so cost intensive? And I've seen companies, folks, with green dashboards going out of business. Efficiency was wrong. But who is now managing efficiency? We do that in manufacturing processes, no problem. Efficiency. But organizations don't think about that a support process like HR, like finance, and all that. Those are also processes.
Yes.
Or they run also processes. But just the efficiency of those processes, we never tackle that.
No.
Process owner does, which a manager cannot deliver because he's got other things to do. He has to manage. And so this area, the review of the efficiency of my process, okay, not just the effectiveness. And the last one, I can see in the slide, to improve the interface. That is that relation management. Process owners must understand that relation management is key within the own organization. To maintain that relation, to develop and maintain a relation to the other departments, because it's an internal process, customer and supplier relationship.
Right.
Of course, R does provide services and quality does provide services. And quality is still, as I said earlier, the babysitter of the organization in so many areas. So the process owners never start flying.
Right.
They feel comfortable. They feel comfortable because the quality manager is around and the QMR is around. So you guys, I don't know how many quality managers we have in our audience here today. You guys, allow me to tell you, you must step down in a controlled manner. You must bring the process owners forwards. If you spoon feed and babysit them all the way through, they're never gonna fly because they're too comfortable having you guys around.
Okay.
And even the top dogs of the world, when you start auditing a management review, and that management review report is shifted over to the quality manager, that my quality manager will talk you through. Because the manager will say, but sir, I raised the question towards you, so you have my undivided attention. And I'm going to put you a quality manager. So it must be a controlled step down of that. You still need to support the organization with problem-solving tools and managing the audits and compliance. The rest, the process owners must come forward.
Yes.
Okay? And this is why it's currently not happening.
Yeah.
And also what I said earlier, these turtle diagrams. To manage complex processes, it is probably the most useless paper that the world has seen. And one must understand why. And I'm not particularly against the documents such as, because everybody needs to understand where it came from. It actually has been developed by the ITTF, but it was been made for us as the third-party auditors, because ITTF said, I don't want you to spend time while you're doing the audit at the client trying to understand what is the scope of this company and what you're actually doing here. I want you to prepare by using turtle diagrams so you have a rough idea where are the interfaces and what procedures come into the place and what are the inputs and outputs and whatnot. But to manage effectively a process within the organization, no, guys, life is not that easy. And on top of that, we are in the 21st century. So the complexity of this cannot be handled with turtle diagrams on Excel spreadsheets. I'm sorry to say. 21st century, for complexity, we need a proper BPM software that really interacts the interactions of the process ownerships to take it to next level. But first, before software, for the ones of you that think that way now, I would agree with you. First, we need to understand what is process management in general, help them, coach the process owners towards it, and empower them to do the job for the good of the organization. So that is the current situation.
Yeah. Wow. That is really those are really some amazing insights. And I think that, as someone myself who has, been at the supplier and working with individuals and process owners or those who did claim to be process owners, I think that having a little bit more understanding about what that really means has been very helpful. So you've highlighted these top 3 problems. And really and truly, I'm sure that individuals are here and everyone's here to hear your recommendations, right? As to how do we make process owners effective, right? I think that's the really big question here. How do we make them effective?
Anything we're going to discuss now, Alicia, if top dogs don't come to the party, don't even continue listening. Fail. All right? So the top dogs must come to the party. Here's one thing. And people say, and I talk to a lot of quality managers around the world and said, yeah, I don't have a management buy-in. It is so difficult with them. They don't want to understand. They don't grasp. Guys, they're managers. They grasp anything they want to grasp. But here's the thing, and this is something, and this is twofold. This is an expectation I would have on a quality manager to sell ITTF to the top dog. That's your main job. Not to tick boxes in the organization and do the audits and and whatnot. To sell the requirements to the top dog. That is the prime job for a quality manager. Or a quality manager that takes care of the management system. That's not necessarily operational quality assurance, but the system architect. The quality system guys, the architects, they must understand the complete benefit of it. And I'm sorry to say, we are not on top of the game. We are either not on top of the game of the requirements ourselves. We are not having the winning arguments to sell, sales potential for the top dog. And without that, it's always going to be difficult. Okay, but there's so many arguments you can follow up. And if somebody said from a quality manager next to all the duties they have, and this is what also something that is problematic. Every time when a single individual or a small group of people has been made accountable for quality assurance and for the quality system, system always loses. Always. Because there's a new project on the go, there's a customer complaint on the go, there's a customer audit coming, there is non-quality issues in production, corrective action management, and bloody what. And it's going to suck up all the energy for the quality assurance. And there's not much left for the quality system. And we can see that all the time. Every time when you have in one person the same responsibility for assurance in the system. So we need a system architect that understands that his main job is not just to conduct and plan audits and make sure that the procedures are in place and the process owners do some turtle diagram.
Right.
You got to sell the requirements to the top dogs so that you sell the buy-in. Nothing is given. And there's some daily arguments. But first, we must sink the teeth into the subject as well. And because without that, I totally agree. And I had many other discussions, many of those. You got to be a salesperson and having and designing those winning arguments to get this buy.
Yeah.
So then we need to understand that the process owners, because you asked me what needs to be done once that buy-in is available. And I've seen many beautiful examples where we do have management buy-in. Brilliant example.
Right.
So I'm not talking everything. It's just too much for my liking, if I call it that. And where we have that, we need to understand that the process owners need to be coached. We need a coaching program for the process owners, which needs to be supported by the HR group, HR team. Because coaching is paramount. They need to act like entrepreneurs, and they will have difficult interfaces because we are still in these old silo and departmental and territory and defend and and leave me alone and whatnot. Yeah. So we need coaching. We need that emotional intelligence coming in, things that we don't consider enough. We're just too technical, too stereotype KPI. If not, back to the drawing board. Go. Right. But a human factor must come to the party because elsewise you don't get the relation management going. It's not everybody's cup of tea. So you need to provide a coaching program for that. And it's here. And then also allow them because they're not necessarily, and find them. Every organization has those people. If you ask people and say, no, this is a high potential, it's never been considered. Bring it forward. Bring it forward. Find your voice. Find your voice. So here's the thing, and help them. Because here's the thing, many managers ask me that. But yes, they have to come out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And Machiavelli already said that people love their comfort zone. That's why we do things, because we've always done it that way. Right. But times change. So we keep on doing things because we've always done it that way. A process owner is cleaning up with that within his boundary of his process. Because that would kill the innovation elsewise if we just continue doing what we've always done.
Right.
And so you lead them out of the comfort zone. So managers ask me, I said, how do you get people out of the comfort zone? And I said, to bring them out of the comfort zone, you need to understand as to why these people feel so comfortable in their comfort zone. What is it? And it's security and safety. It's security. That's why they feel comfortable. It's known. I know it. I've always done it that way. But now you lead him out into an area where he doesn't feel comfortable anymore. So the solution is, if you understand what makes him comfortable inside, give him the same thing outside the comfort zone. Right. And the key word for that is a failure culture. It is allowed to make mistakes. But you cannot lead people out of the comfort zone and then clap him left, right, and center for making mistakes. Of course, he's going to run back where he's comfortable. And that's a failure. And the more failure, where it's allowed to make mistakes in that new territory. Remember?
Yeah.
The more and more his comfort zone is getting wider and wider and wider. And now it is starting to reach other people with a bigger comfort zone. And this is how you bring the people together. That relation management is key in process management.
For sure. For sure.
So especially, yeah. Sorry, I just got a question. Yeah, sorry. Terrence's just giving me, there's a question coming in from the audience. I'm just going to read.
Yes.
How do you affect design process owners to a global process? If the process is implemented at different locations of the company having local process owners, could fragment the process instead of making it stronger. If ownership is to the top dog, like a VP, would they really get their hands dirty to improve the process and perform read across global? Yes, that's a monster question, guys.
Yeah.
What is most effective? So I think the key is, what if you are in a corporate world? Let me just double read again. In different locations, yeah, typically corporate world, the company having local process owner could fragment to the process instead. Yeah, that's a very good question, and we see that all the time. Every time when you have a corporate world with manufacturers around, who's going to be the owner? The process owners are partly remotely, so not on site, and how you going to manage it? VPs don't make their hand. Of course not.
Right.
Of course not. Why would they? No, and that's again what I said earlier. We are running the organizations like an army, especially the corporate world.
Yeah.
Yeah. General, platoon leaders, soldiers, up and down, same thing. So coming back to this question, as a principle applies in the same way. They all need to understand their roles and responsibilities. Where I do see differences is good examples and failing examples is to maintain a relationship on a remote location is challenging. I give you that. But the principle applies itself. And the same principles also apply to getting the buy-ins. And the buy-ins, I would like to advise you, don't start with the VP. Work your way up. Is the best way of doing it. So start developing your relation management in your reach area. Don't go to the VP straight, because he might send you home like a schoolboy. So start building your relationship in your reach locally. Get the promotion. Find we like to call them crystallization points. Okay, the one that share your thought. They share your hunger. They share your passion about it. And carry to the next levels. Other than that, it would be the same concept. The concepts apply, but it's more challenging cross-functionally and remotely. I must give you that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. We're actually, getting closer to the end here, and so this has all been very informative. I do see that there was a hand raised and another question. I'm going to start with that first question that we saw here. And it actually kind of goes back to your first point, I believe. So the question is, how does the ITTF process ownership align with total quality management, which assumes everyone owns whatever activity he or she is executing from a quality perspective?
It aligns. The basic concept of TQM aligns completely with the process ownership, because I'm going to tell you why. Because the process owner is managing his team. He's also got to assign a team where everybody should find his voice. Everybody's allowed to speak up. And this is what you have on this slide that you see, where you organize your process reviews together with everybody, where everybody's having a voice. So the way I look at it, TQM and process ownership principle of operations is completely aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have another question here, and I'm not sure if it was from our previous question, but it says, in my company, all process ownership is assigned to the department's vice presidents. Doesn't that remove empowerment from the persons closer to the process? Is that really effective?
Completely. Will never fly.
Yeah.
Will never fly. Well observed.
Yeah.
And it's not the idea. Not to give the VP more power. They have power enough already with their titles. Don't give them more power with that on top. Empower people within the organization, breaking down on a broader range. That's the idea. So to concentrate all the power on the VP person is not going to fly.
Mm-mm.
Never, will not, and is not.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. Another question actually just came in. So great answer to the first question. And this applies well to a manufacturing environment. But how do you approach this for a services environment where different sites provide similar, but not necessarily the same service?
Can you repeat that question, please?
So the person is saying that typically or at least the first question applied mostly to a manufacturing environment. So how do you approach this whole process ownership process for a services environment where different sites provide similar but not necessarily the same service?
Principle the same. I was just choosing a manufacturing site because I was under the assumption that the most delegates from this event coming from a manufacturing environment. Mm-hmm. I didn't know, it was just my assumption. But hey, the same principle applies for services. Services also have support systems, also have an internal customer and yes. supplier. And what is important to understand is with what other processes in the organization are you having an interface? If you have to another process and interface where the services are different and there is no interface, so it be. So you need processes where you need to have a relationship because they are providing an input for your process, may it be a product or a service. Okay, so you need to engage with them. You need to tell them what your expectations is as a customer. And you must sit them down and complain if you're not happy and develop and build that relationship. As the principles are completely the same, maybe manufacturing or service. It's just and the interlink of the processes. But you need to find who is feeding into your process because you must stop just measuring the KPIs to have a green dashboard. The cost reduction is also in the input side because this is the amount of resources you blow in to convert into a desired result. But if you put too many inputs in, too much resources that are costly, dashboarding can be dark green and you still go out of business.
Yeah.
But no difference between manufacturing and service.
Yeah, absolutely. And also this person also said, or kind of an add-on to that question was these particular sites. So the service environment where there are different sites, they have customers or various customers, different customers with different expectations. So my thought would still be that the answer would be the same, right?
Yeah, completely.
Absolutely.
Completely. What could be a solution for this? It's still a very valid and good question. Is to switch the organization to a matrix organization.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not downstream in your soldiers and your army. So it's product related or service related. So you can have different services, but you still have the coming in different department functionalities that support one product line or service product line. That's also a nice idea one could look into to switch to a matrix organization instead of that hierarchy organization that we find.
Absolutely. So we have another question. Should process ownership be assigned to a person by name or a function by title?
By name.
Yep.
Because in a function you have many process engineers or quality engineers. If you sign more than one person accountable, nobody's accountable. Got to be by name.
Yeah, I've heard that many times. If you assign everybody to it, no one's accountable.
Nobody's responsible. No, because they start playing ping pong. It's me. One person, accountability. But be careful. You cannot just sign people, valuable people for the organization accountable. You must also give them the authorities.
Yes.
Brother and sister. And this is what we always see. You make everybody responsible, but they never get any authorities. So for every chicken, excuse my friend, they have to ask. So responsibility and accountability and authority is brother and sister. They need one another. So authority is, so be careful.
Absolutely. I agree. So we have another question here. To follow on the question with fragmented processes, how can organizations align their ITF processes with the overall strategy for more concrete execution? What activities can be implemented in highly dynamic environments? And how can the organization gauge performance metrics removed from KPIs? So let's maybe start with the first part. So how can organizations align their ITF processes with the overall strategy for more concrete execution?
That's a very interesting one. But I want to learn something now. What are the ITF processes? ITF doesn't identify any processes for you. It just says you shall identify what you deem is important for the organization. ITF doesn't say that. What ITF, and maybe this is where people get confused. Sometimes ITF talks about you need to have a documented process. That can also be a procedure. But a documented process or a procedure is unlike an identified process that the business model needs. So ITF does not tell you processes you have to identify. I think
absolutely.
a little bit confusing because they say about you need to have a documented process, but a documented process can be a procedure. But that's not like according clause 4.4.1, where you have to identify the processes with inputs and outputs and KPIs and whatnot.
Okay.
It's a little bit, I must say, but ITF does not tell you what processes you have to identify.
So with that being said, then this person is also inquiring about the activities, right? So how can these activities be implemented in these highly dynamic environments? And then also, how can the organization gauge performance metrics that might have been removed from KPIs? So it's definitely two different questions, but.
I'm not 100% sure if I understand the question. I heard every single word, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I. So maybe.
Yeah, maybe they can. Let's see. It's Stephanie. If you could maybe elaborate a little bit more on specifically what you mean about the activities, and also maybe even elaborate a little bit more on the metrics removed from the KPI. And feel free to chat with us here. Okay.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah,
I've got it. I apologize. So I was talking about just aligning the processes in general with the overall strategy. And you did answer that for me in that ITF does basically claim or hold accountable one person to run their processes as they seem fit, hopefully fit with the strategy of the organization. The other two questions is the activities especially in some manufacturing and in service industries. Some of the companies are in highly dynamic environments where they are in constant competition, and they're always looking for ways to create value for customers and ecosystems if they happen to be part of a platform or ecosystem. So how could they change their activities to align more with the organizational strategy and their actors who may be directly or indirectly involved in the company's success or the company's processes? And for the KPI, instead of, as you had said, instead of measuring KPI, what other metrics or measurements can we use for the performance during those processes?
Okay, that would push it too far. But what is in this very, very important, what the process owner should do is he must have his KPIs or his measurables for the effectiveness, of course, but he must
Okay.
also review the efficiency of his process. And the review result of that must be used as an input into the management review. But here comes the problem. In 9 out of 10 cases, the management review in organizations are run like an ops review, completely failing what actually ITF says, which should be a quality management system review. Completely failing. So they run it like an ops. And so just imagine the process owner has the empowerment to feed in not only his performance indicators, but also the review of the efficiency, because that's driving the innovation. We're driving innovation with the continuous improvement, because remember, continuous improvement starts when your process is already delivering what it's supposed to deliver. So your dashboard is green. That's when continuous improvement starts. And that's driving the innovation. And if that is not done by the process owners, nobody's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to do it. But if
Thank
you look
you
at
so
these
much.
management reviews, and I said, just had another audit, and a managing director showed me, so don't show me all the information that you use, the performance where it says internal audit reports and customer complaints and whatnot. And he shows me, yes, we have conducted 6 audits and there were 15 findings and they're all closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sir, by all means, but what conclusion do you draw out of this information? That only tells you that your people are doing what you pay them for.
Yeah.
What conclusion do you draw for the system? Nothing. Not understood. But just now, if we empower the process owners feeding in those reviews where they have empowerment to the results feeding in, and so the top dogs of the world starting waking up that this is not an ops meeting. This is you should draw a conclusion as to what changes need to be done in my management system by using performance information, of course. But it's not an ops meeting. And I said, but what would you like to ask if not the audits? I said, if I also have run an organization, my system I want to ask is, are there any repeat failures? So I can talk to the process owner and say, guys, listen, can you tell me why my auditors have to come here year for year for year for year? And they always run into the same finding. That's what I want to know. Not how many audits we've done and how many findings and if they're all closed and 5 are open. That doesn't tell me nothing. But if you have a repeat failure, my dear process owner, you're not doing the job. I want to know what's the average lead time it takes to implement an effective corrective action. So I can go to the process owner and say, listen, can you tell me why it takes an average 78 days till you clear a finding from an audit? I want to learn something. Or maybe I need to support you something. Are you struggling with something? Because this is not acceptable. So do we need a change in the management system? And then they get all the customer complaints, and then all you get to see is how you correct that. But that's corrective action management. That is not management system reviews. So you got to be very careful in helping the top dogs of the world to understand what is actually the scope of a quality management system review versus an ops review. Because they run it like an ops review. And it's wrong. It's not what ITF is after. So now, just bear in mind, the top dogs start to understand what their duty is. They're also employees. They also cannot mess it up what they do. So they have to sink their teeth in and understand what's actually the scope of this requirement, and now empower with the right inputs from the process owners to draw the right conclusion for the system. This is where your innovation of the system flashing. And you can only go north. You can only go up.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure, Stephanie.
I do want to take a question from YouTube, from the live stream. So, and maybe this will be our last question for today. How do you see the bridge or link between process owner and process owners that work in collaboration with different department managers?
The difference between a process owner and the process owner that works? Say that again.
So how do you see the bridge or the connection between the process owner and then the process owner that works in collaboration with different departments?
Process owner or product owner? Product owner,
my
product
apologies.
owner.
Product
Okay.
owner, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So how do you see that link between that process owner and then the product owner that works in collaboration with different department managers?
Product owners could be very valuable process owners. I want to tell you why, because they have a wide responsibility over a product line or a specific product. So they already are experienced with engaging with other Are you guys still here?
Yes.
Can you still? Okay, sorry. Because they already have a lot of experiences with engaging with other faculties and people in general. That's what we need from process owners. So the product owner is already very, very far with playing good ones, in playing the rules of what a process owner duty is. So I don't see any conflict of assigning a product owner as a process owner for his product line process. And in most of the cases it is, because they are responsible for the final output, they are financial for timing, and they're usually responsible also for budget. Wonderful. So that could work very well. You need those characters that drive processes, process management for the sake of the organization. We need guys that have a pushback mentality, not just guys that do the job and tick the box. As we must stop ticking the boxes with ITTF, because an auditor wants to see it, because a customer wants to see it. You putting efforts in to maintain something that is not serving you. We have no more time for that. Turn it around, come to the party, find your voice, and create that pushback mentality. Don't accept everything. Push back with clever arguments, of course. But first, then we need to get on top of the requirements. So sink your teeth into that.
Okay, thank you, Hans. So obviously, everyone, we're out of time, but I would definitely like to offer that anyone who had a question that didn't get answered, please engage with us offline, and we'll definitely respond and answer all of your questions accordingly. Another thing that you can do is check us out at our website. It's www.encona.org. Obviously, we offer plenty of trainings and also different workshops that are related to ITTF and the requirements and, of course, their effective implementation. So those of you who enjoyed this webinar, and we're seeing lots of great feedback even so far from the messages, if you want to hear more, let me just go ahead and let you know that our next webinar will be held next month, April 13th. And the subject will be the effective implementation of enterprise risk management. So hopefully we can also get Hans for this webinar as well, for his expertise. So hopefully we can have.
Put me off guard here now.
Oh boy.
Okay, but I buy it.
Yes, great. Awesome. So today we just want to wish all of you the absolute best. Thank you for joining today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.